Hi folks, my name is Jamie Bamber. I play Lee Apollo Adama in Battlestar Galactica, and this is Comics Online.
Jamie, I'm so excited to celebrate Battlestar Galactica's 20th anniversary with you here in Chicago this weekend. Thanks for sharing some time with me.
Not as excited as I am. I can't believe it's been 20 years, and this weekend's been extraordinary.
So we've had a couple of interviews over the years. I think our earliest one would have been Comic-Con in San Diego in 2008, and then for the 15th anniversary, I believe 2019.
Yeah.
So it's been a little while.
We've
so
had some landmarks, yeah.
Yes, but you were one of my earliest interviews with ComicsOnline.
Oh,
so
very good.
We're celebrating our 25th anniversary this
Well,
year.
congratulations.
So, thank you.
You're 5 years older than we are.
It's been a joy to celebrate Battlestar along the way.
Great.
So I'd love to just start off with, what was the casting process like for you?
Well, it was a watershed moment in my life because I was coming out of a job in the UK, which I'd done for a season and a half. So facing unemployment, we just found out that Kerry, my then girlfriend, was pregnant. I just finished a play at the Bristol Old Vic, and the thought of the future was quite scary. My manager encouraged me to come over to LA. The first night there, I was staying in his guest house. He invited me up for a cocktail, and he threw this massive brick down on the table, which was the miniseries. And there followed a 2-week auditioning process for this job where, initially I had to overcome my sort of response to someone redoing Battlestar Galactica from my youth. But by the end of the 2 weeks and 5 auditions later, or 5 different mini processes later, I was back in the house after a grueling day at Universal, which was essentially like a competition, like a TV competition, reality competition, like the X Factor. Started with about 7 actors, 7 boys, 7 girls, going for Starbuck and Apollo, and by the end, there were only 2 for each role. And I drove home thinking it had gone pretty well, and just exhausted. Got back home. And my manager called me upstairs, and he told me there and then that I'd been offered the role in the drive home. So my wife and I went out, celebrated, and life changed.
When I was speaking with Katie over the weekend, we were talking about the Vipers in particular, and getting to get into those cockpits. What was that experience like for you?
It was epic. It was like it was that feeling that you get walking into the gym, knowing that you're going to put yourself through a rigorous workout. You're apprehensive, you've got to do it. You're excited, but it's going to be physically draining because the process essentially is you get zipped into this flight suit. It's not, and we're in flight suits all the time, but when you zip it all the way up, and when you put the neck piece on, and when you put the helmet on, you put the gloves on, you really are sort of sealed in there, and it's a sweaty, horrible place to be for the 2 or 3 hours. And then you get into the cockpit, and then they close the canopy around you and shut it, and then your only connection with the outside world is the earwig and your microphone, and they turn on and off the microphone, so sometimes they're talking to each other outside between takes, and you're sort of stuck in literally in a different kind of little space there. So it's quite solitary. I feel claustrophobic. It's not great, but the real challenge for me, and the bit I loved, was the fact that Gary Hutzel, rest his soul, was the most wonderful visual effects creator, and he would have these little sort of very rudimentary previous visualizations of what the dogfight, the sequence was going to be. And in that moment, you really had to kind of put yourself into that image that he created, which was a moving but 2-dimensional image, and you had to create the 3rd dimension and work out where all these other friends and foe were flying, where you were shooting, how the aircraft was behaving. Not the aircraft, the spacecraft was behaving. Sometimes in atmosphere, sometimes not. So you had to do a lot of work mentally before you went in there to really kind of, sometimes the sequence was like 30, 40 seconds, a minute long, and you had to really create that with your eyes, with your body movement, to tell the story that this immobile Viper was fully moving in all 360 degrees in all 3 dimensions. And that's a real challenge, and I loved it. Really loved it.
The series obviously had a heavy CGI component, but also had a lot of grounded, amazing sets. I was wondering, in particular, are there sets that really stood out to you, that you got to play in that,
Yeah, I mean, strangely, this sounds strange because, of course, there was a CGI component, and one of the fans here, Tom, showed us a 4-minute cut-up sort of mashup that he'd done, that he'd edited together of a lot of the space fights, and they're extraordinary. But that's really where it kind of stopped, because anything inside the ships was practical, like 95% practical. So in terms of our acting, there wasn't a great deal. The only, obviously, interactions that were purely vis effects were with the robotic Cylons, with the chrome toasters, because we did have mock-ups of them, and we could move them around for eye lines and things, but they didn't move. Obviously, they weren't real. So yeah, that required a bit of imagination. But no, the great thing about the job is it was, you know, in keeping with the subject matter about technology being the enemy, we kept the technology to a minimum within the filming. It was mostly practical.
There were some amazing pillars along the way, some checkpoints, if you will, as far as storytelling. Of all the twists that happened during your run, was there any one that really hit home for you in particular?
Well, listen, there were so many moments, as you say. The arrival of the Pegasus is a big one, to see, sort of, to look at humanity in the mirror, to see how other people had dealt with this same thing, and you weren't alone out there, and the contrast of the atmosphere on that ship and the leadership contrast. I thought that was a really cool device, and obviously for my character, it sort of spelt out a moment of kind of emancipation from the father figure, and to become a commander in his own right, and all the rest of it, and that was very exciting. The year jump ahead, I thought was a very cool moment, which Ron conjured up, and to do it within a single shot, I think, was on the page, which was very cool. And then there were many character transitions that I went through that I particularly enjoyed. The courtroom being the obvious one.
My last question to you on the human element. I love just asking something outside of work. Do you have a party trick or a skill that you don't get to show off on the screen that you just love to showcase?
Unfortunately, it's not very exciting, and it doesn't paint me in a great light. But I used to be able to pull out some one-arm press-ups when I was in Apollo shape, and I used to pull that out at parties. I don't think I can do it anymore, and the parties are fewer and farther between anyway. So that's about the extent of it.
Do you have any projects coming out that you'd like to promote?
Yeah, sure. I'm working on a BBC One show that I adore called Beyond Paradise at the moment in Cornwall, which will come out in the new year in the UK, which is and here on maybe BritBox. I'm not. I think BritBox actually. So that's the only one that's in the can that I have to come out. But hopefully, watch this space. We'll have more things coming.
Perfect. Well, Jamie, thank you for sharing the time at the 20th anniversary. We hope that this becomes a regular thing for you guys visiting us in Chicago. But
yeah,
cheers.
Well, I just want to sign off by saying how grateful we are, first to the fans for keeping us relevant for 20 years and for still being here, part of our huge extended family, and secondly for creation, for putting us all together, because this has never happened before. We've never had the whole cast plus our writer-creator, our director-creator, and Michael Hogan, who obviously has been through some travails with his health, and he's here, and the fans have been extraordinarily generous with his GoFundMe auction. So for all of those three things, we're extremely, extremely grateful.